Early this morning, truck drivers protested new rules requiring they be vaccinated before they can cross state lines. Just a day after arrests during anti-lockdown protests on the border. Tensions are running high, with the strict border closure disrupting lives across the country.
So in June, I was offered a job to move to Brisbane. It was probably about 10 minutes before the flight. Over the speaker, they said no Melbourne travellers will be accepted due to the new border restrictions.
Like many, Tim was blindsided last week when Queensland banned interstate arrivals with less than 2 hours' notice.
We are pausing arrivals into hotel quarantine for a period of 2 weeks.
I understand why the Queensland government brought those rules in, but my plans had been made for weeks prior to this decision of Anastasia Palaszczuk. I'd always followed the rules. My furniture's been in Queensland now for a month. My animals are travelling today to Brisbane. My hope is that I can get to Brisbane after the 8th, but still there's no clear indication whether that's going to be lifted.
Queensland said the tightened measures were necessary. With more than 5,000 people already in hotel quarantine, the system in danger of buckling.
Queensland is being loved to death. It's too much pressure, so we have to put a pause.
But the hard closure is also taking its toll on border towns like Tweed Heads, where the state line runs through the middle of a street.
We've got so many of our workers that go across to Queensland for work every day, and all of those people are left wondering how long those employers in southeast Queensland are going to hang on and keep waiting for them. So people just don't know if their jobs are going to be there for them to go back to.
The reverse is also true, with Tweed businesses suddenly finding themselves without their Queensland-based staff.
Of our 48 staff, 22 reside in Queensland and unable to attend work. That pressure is also being dispersed across our New South Wales staff members. They're now being asked to clamber together to take on extra shifts to hopefully cover for when their Queensland friends can join us again.
Sam's business is just metres from the state border, and with a hard barrier in place, his supply lines have dried up.
Half of our suppliers, fruit, vegetables, meats, proteins, those kinds of things, are in Queensland. Business is down around about 28% this week. I'd imagine it will be more like 40% by next week.
It's made things extremely tricky, that's for sure. Got to get a contractor on this side of the border to do my work that's over there, vice versa.
My husband passed away from motor neuron disease last week, and he has 4 sisters on the Gold Coast, but we couldn't get together, so it was really, really hard.
But the Tweed Shire Mayor has a plan, which would effectively make Tweed a temporary part of Queensland.
All of the local MPs within the northern region have come together to put forward a solution of having the same border restrictions that are on the Queensland border and move that down to the southern side of the Tweed Shire. And that will allow our children to get back to school, our people to get back to work, and really our lives to continue.
While Palaszczuk supports this plan, New South Wales isn't keen to cede the territory just yet.
The border cannot move and should not move because there'll be unintended consequences.
So with border communities suffering and the quarantine system under pressure, how long can this hard lockdown last?
So we've got a 2-week hard lockdown of Queensland. This afternoon, the NRL flew a flight into Queensland with 100 people who are family members of the NRL players who are playing in Queensland and other officials. You imagine how much upset the people up there trying to do their work feel about that.
Yeah. But it's not an apples situation, is it? They're different things.
Oh, but...
Because you're talking about a finite group of people in a one-time transfer.
But it'll still upset you.
No, sure. I totally understand why people are upset. But the question really is, what can you do as an ongoing policy? Because New South Wales is going to be like this for a long time.
So what are the consequences if we do...
The unintended consequences.
Yeah, what are those unintended consequences? It just seems like a no-brainer.
It's a land grab.
But if it's temporary...
I agree they should do it. I think it's a great idea. But it won't be temporary. They'll draw the line. They'll never get it back.
So maybe it turns up...
Isn't that what contracts are for?
So you know that area. I mean, Kingscliff suddenly becomes part of Queensland.
Just temporarily.
You're right.
From expert opinions to in-depth analysis and reporting, the Project YouTube brings you the biggest stories from Australia and around the globe. Hit the subscribe button now for news delivered straight to your feed.